Pat, after watching the debate and listening to everything they were discussing, one thing jumped out at me that I want your scientific background, your education, and everything you know about science to answer a couple of questions for me.
Yeah.
Joe Biden talked about the economy. He talked about moving away from fracking, moving toward renewable energy, talking about solar and wind and things like that. Trump says it's very expensive. We don't have the technology. Solar power, we don't have the battery technology to store the power that it generates. Windmills, I've been told that it takes more energy to produce a windmill in the manufacturing of it than it does that whatever energy the windmill could ever produce in its entire life.
Yeah.
What are the facts coming down to solar power, wind power, talking about $40 to $50 an hour jobs in the solar and wind industry, that he's going to create all these jobs when he wipes out all the jobs in the oil industry. What is your scientific analysis of what Biden was talking about?
Well, first of all, take a step back, so I'll put the policy hat on before the engineering hat.
Okay.
And we have to recognize the fact that all these industries are subsidized to a large extent across the board. Our agriculture industry is subsidized to a large extent. We've gotten so far away from a free market model, it's ridiculous.
Right.
But having said that, if you actually go off and start looking at the unit price of delivering a kilowatt hour of energy, that's where we need to go off and do the math, if you will.
Sure.
And so the latest figures that I saw a while back, and it's a little sketchy because I'm not in the legislature anymore. I used to have it on a fast pass index card on it.
Sure.
But it did show that solar was most expensive. I mean, and all that translates. So every time you start talking about wind energy, you start talking about solar, you start talking about all these different areas, you need to recognize that translates into the cost of doing business in the and for any business, because they all depend on electricity. Whether or not you're a manufacturing plant where you're going to use a heck of a lot more electricity than anybody else, or whether or not you are a residential homeowner, you all get impacted by the price. Although when you look at behind the scenes in Michigan in particular, you notice that some people are more equal than others when it comes to what rates they have to pay. Right. So. Yep. The bottom line is what I proposed as a state senator is I let the free market bear. You know, if you want to go off and buy solar and buy it as a premium, go ahead and buy solar energy at a premium. If you can't afford that premium, then go buy your electricity from a natural gas plant, for example, or a coal plant. And you're going to get a discounted rate on it, not discounted, but you're going to get a lower rate because it's lower cost to go off and
lower cost to produce it, therefore you're purchasing it at a lower cost.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing that ties into this discussion. When he talked about those high-paying jobs, okay, the market will only bear what it can bear. If I can buy energy, my radio station, the biggest expense I have on a monthly basis is the electric bill to run the 97.7 FM.
Yeah.
Now, if I've got an option to buy electricity from Great Lakes Energy, or over there I'm with PIE&G, they're going to say, okay, Randy, here is your electric cost per kilowatt hour with us producing your electricity to run the radio station using natural gas. Here's your cost to do it with solar or wind.
Yep.
It's going to be 3, 4, 5 times more expensive.
But you feel better. I
feel better, but I can't afford it. So really, how is the market going to purchase that expensive produced electricity? There will be no market.
No.
There will be no $40 to $50 an hour jobs because nobody will buy it.
Right. They don't understand the interdependency of the economy. And so this goes beyond the technical aspects of wind technology and the fact that you rightly pointed out, I mean, there is no backup power on this stuff. And when you start doing that, you start talking about technologies like these batteries. I mean, some of these rare earth metals and stuff that they need to go off and get these things stored up. Do you know how they get those rare earth metals? Do you know what they do to destroy the environment in the process of getting those?
Right.
I mean, you got to look at the whole life cycle. I mean, they're the ones talking about we have to look at Gaia and the whole ecosystem as a whole. Well, then look at the whole ecosystem of the environment, of the economic system that you're proposing to do, and see
Right.
how that impacts to the environment. And if you're truly being honest, you're going to find out that what you're proposing is more harmful than not. So,
Well, another point that Joe Biden made is that Trump got us out of the Paris Climate Accord. The first thing he'll do is put us back into the Paris Climate Accord. Trump mentioned the dirtiest countries that are violating the Paris Climate Accord: Russia, India, China. We were the only ones being held to those standards. Those countries doing the most polluting aren't. And Joe Biden wants to put us back into the Paris Climate Accord?
Well, of course, it makes his buddy in China, Xi Jinping, it makes him look good. and so it's always been about redistribution of the authority and power of the United States to other countries like China who are not held to the same standards. And he can talk about holding the same standards. There is a track record there. He was trying to dodge his 8 years of experience with President Obama the whole time. But the fact is, he didn't do any of that stuff. He never never advocated for any of those policies that he started talking about here. And
well, I found that point interesting as you bring it up. Is Obama is out in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, campaigning for this guy, but on this debate, he's basically going to throw Obama under the bus and say, "Wait a minute, I wasn't the president, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm going to be president, but the other guy was in charge." So he's basically throwing Obama under the bus while Obama's out there on the campaign trail for him.
Oh yeah, I still remember when he was talking about immigration. He says.
Right.
And he sits there and goes, well, he just didn't do it fast enough. If I'm president, I'm going to do it faster. Are you saying Obama was an ineffective president?
Yes,
is that
he
what
is.
You're trying to say? Because that's the way I heard it.
Yeah.
He wasn't all he's cracked up to be. Well, I mean, I think he just ran him under the bus.
And wait a minute, Joe, isn't this the former president that basically has endorsed you and is out there campaigning for you? So tonight you're going to throw him under the bus? What kind of friend are you?
Yeah. No,
Well, let me ask you this point, because another thing that he talked about is the economy, okay? And you running for governor, you understand both micro and macroeconomics.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of what he's talking about doing as far as shutting the economy down, listening to the scientists because of COVID-19, is not what Donald Trump said absolutely true, that if he shuts the economy down again, we may not even have a country?
I think that was not an understatement in the least. And he gave the evidence of look at the streets of New York. I used to work out in New York on a regular basis. Even at 3 o'clock in the morning, you had people bumping into you on the sidewalk getting from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Now it's a ghost town. You can see tumbleweeds go down the middle. Whenever you see those broadcasts from all the TV stations out there, all you see is an empty street. That was never the way it used to be. And he shut down all these restaurants. He shut down. Now, we've got a good experiment here. If you want to go off and see the different economic models and different economic impacts of different policies, look no further than South Dakota versus Michigan or versus New York.
New York City.
Right. And we got a great example. Nikki Haley. First of all, I mean, I had an honor to meet her. I've talked to many people about how she governs. First thing she did under COVID-19, she said, these are the things I can do. These are the things I cannot do as governor. And she goes, you know what? I'm not going to do any of the things that I'm not allowed to do under the Constitution. And you know what President Trump did? He did the same thing. And I remember when he was running for president, I was fearful. He never said the word Constitution once.
Yep.
But apparently he read it because he said, listen, we're going to provide the flexibility out to the states and let them go off and do their own policies. So now we've got that laboratory of democracy, if you will, in act. And you saw what happened with Nikki Haley. In South Dakota, they got a 4%
Okay,
unemployment
no.
rate.
You're talking
Kristi Noem.
Kristi
Sorry,
Right.
Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem now is on all cylinders. They got a 4% unemployment rate out in South Dakota. They're cranking, and they got real estate brokers right now. They can't find enough properties for to put people up in for the number of people moving in. New York's got the opposite problem. They got everybody moving out.
Yeah,
and so in Michigan, Governor Whitmer is doing the same thing here. And,
well, the thing of it is, and I said this, you remember during the gubernatorial debates we had in Traverse City, when
Yeah.
Brian Kelly and you and I believe the other candidate Jim Hines were there
No, I think it was just me and Callie up in
in
Traverse City.
Traverse City. In Traverse City, I thought maybe there was three, but anyway, the
Yeah.
question was Brian Kelly said that the economy is doing good in Michigan and we're growing our economy and on and on. And I said, excuse me, but the 2020 census is going to prove that Michigan lost population again. And we're going to lose a congressman in Washington. We may lose two when this current census is announced and the numbers are reported. Here's the question. How is it that we continue to lose people in our state? People in New York are leaving. California is leaving. Illinois, New Jersey, places like you just said, South Dakota with Governor Kristi Noem, they're expanding. Texas is expanding. Okay, even Florida is doing good.
Yeah.
How is it that these people don't understand the ramifications of their decisions with regards to
Right.
this virus, taxation, regulation, all the things they're doing? That 40% of the restaurants, I just saw the story the other day in New York City, are never coming back. 4 out of 10 are done. They're closing their doors and they're not reopening.
Well, this is why it's important for President Trump to go off and highlight that what he's talking about is socialism. You know, whether it's the Green New Deal, whether or not it's his plan for providing a government option around Obamacare, which was the part that never caught wind. I mean, it was out there. It's actually in Obamacare right now. It's just that
Right.
nobody's picking that option. So
Yep.
if I were President Trump, I'd be highlighting the fact that, hey, did you look at this? This is actually part of Obamacare right now in Section 1301.
Yes.
And say, guys, this isn't even no. It's on the selection tree. Just nobody wants to go for it because it stinks.
Yeah.
And so the key is to go off and point out, here's what's working, here's what's not working. And Joe Biden, remarkably, is just picking all the stuff that's never worked. and he's getting a pass because the media will not question him on it, and they will not do the deep thinking on it.
Well, President Trump, in my opinion, asked the questions that needed to be asked. There was a couple of times he kept being redundant and going over the same points.
Yeah.
But I do think he exposed Biden on a lot of these issues that, unfortunately, Kristen Welker did not do, and I don't think she was willing to do.
Yeah, I mean, just the topics that are picked for the different discussions.
Exactly.
When you
Yep.
take the perspective of, all the poor, disadvantaged people. Well, wait a minute. What about all the folks who've been working their tail off and came from meager circumstances and actually went from poverty and elevated themselves? Talk to them. How about
Yeah.
sharing their story and actually promoting that? Because that, if they share their story, that's going to elevate all the other folks that they say that they're going off and concerned about as a moderator or as a Democratic candidate. And so that's the part that never seems to be done, but we should kind of get used to that as when you come at it from a conservative worldview.
Yeah.
So,
well, it was a good debate. It was a good exchange back and forth. But quick question on the voting possibilities. They said 42 million, I believe it is, 45 million people have already voted early. They didn't get to see this debate before they voted. A lot of people are voting in person, especially on the Republican side.
yeah.
Do you think any minds were changed, those independents or undecideds that haven't voted yet? Do you think this debate influenced them at all?
Yeah, I think here's the way I look at it. From right now, I think for the folks who are undecided right now, there's a bit of an emotional tug of war that I think is going on with them right now. I think a lot of them will understand that there are drastically two different visions of where we want to take America with these two candidates. One is obviously down the road to serfdom. That's Biden. And then the other one is President Trump. His whole campaign credo is about making America great again.
Yep.
The biggest hurdle that a lot of the people that want to vote for the vision that Donald Trump is trying to implement, the biggest difficulty they have, it gets down into this emotional issue, and they say, hey, but he's just not presidential at times. I think he was presidential tonight. I mean, I think he came across very tempered. I think he came across very measured with how he went off and responded to things. I think he held things in a lot more, particularly than the first debate. And I think he gave a glimmer of hope for the folks that are just looking for a reason to vote for him. I think from those folks, that from an emotional perspective, I think he gave them that reason to vote for him.
Absolutely. Well, I think that those people too, if they really got to hear the vision, like you said, when he, in his closing statement, said, "What would you say to the people on inauguration day? We're going to get back to being a successful country again." I think that is his vision, like you said, make America great again, go back on track, get beyond this China virus thing. Let's open our businesses, let's open our schools, let's do that. Biden says he's going to listen to the scientists and very well may shut the country down again. I think
I
people,
think he
if
was
they,
pretty clear about shutting it down. I mean,
yeah,
he wasn't
exactly.
even talking about asking the scientists half the time in his answer. He was just saying, "Nope, shut it down."
Yep, got to stop this stupid virus.
Yeah.
And even though the mortality rate is almost zero, they're still hanging on to those testing positive
Uh,
cases. And
right.
I think it's the wrong move. Well, listen, that's the questions I had for you.
Yeah.
I think it's a good discussion. It's a good wrap up. Bottom line is, I think it's going to come to getting out the vote. I think some people are going to, not want to necessarily think I even want to participate in this circus. That they can't take that approach, Pat.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of stuff I'm seeing here in Michigan. It's not get out and vote. Make sure you get out and vote. Vote at the polls. Although there's some games that are being played right now with poll-based voting right now. Still, you
Yep.
got to get out and do it. Don't
Yep.
be discouraged in any way, shape, or form. But Stalin once said that it's not those who vote that matter, it's the one who counts the vote that matters. And I am seriously concerned about election integrity when I see people getting multiple ballots, not multiple ballot applications, multiple ballots delivered to the same address.
Yeah.
I think there's a calculated move on the part of the Democrats this time that they're just going to throw it all up on the wall. We've seen that they have no respect for the rule of law. We've seen it firsthand with Governor Whitmer here in the state of Michigan. Even when she has been ruled down and struck down and said she's acting in an unlawful manner, the next day she goes off and acts again in an unlawful manner.
Yeah.
They have no integrity when it comes to the rule of law. And why would that stop when it comes to elections?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I am honestly very, very concerned, and there's a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about on Let's Fix Stuff, and I know you talk about on WCHY with your defending fathers on a regular
Yep.
basis that give people pause around the integrity of our election system. The only way to fix this going forward for in this current election is to make sure that we've got diligent poll workers that are making sure that the process is executed in a fair and balanced manner. And right now, I'm seeing evidence that we're certain the conservative side of the spectrum is being shut out in many cases, particularly in the city of Detroit, from actually having a seat at the table when this election is going forward, and that opens the door to a lot of corruption. So
Absolutely.
I fear for my country right now, and we got to plan for it, get engaged, and do whatever we can to highlight this kind of garbage when it happens. But get out and vote, but also make sure we safeguard that vote.
Amen. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight, and hopefully, maybe we can figure out how to fix problems going forward. And the other problem that we're going to have on election day, election night, I'm going to be in Cobo Hall.
Yep.
So if you decide to do something here on your website, I'm not going to be able to participate because I won't even be able to have access to my cell phone. So
No, that's good. Well, you keep it going, and we're gonna see what happens on election night, and we're gonna get all these technical issues sorted out because
Yep.
I think it's important that we actually do have a mechanism for identifying and routing any election issues that do pop up, and bringing them to everybody's attention. So I would like to be kind of an election hotline, if you will, making sure we get this information routed to the people who can actually fix some of the problems that are happening out at the polling places and counting boards.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to you taking this conversation and hopefully uploading it, maybe perhaps in a YouTube video.
Yep.
We'll share it on our show. Again, we do the show live, 9 to noon, Monday through Friday, called Your Defending Fathers with Trucker Randy. You can listen to it online at yourdefendingfathers.com. The show repeats every 3 hours. So if you miss it, you can listen at noon, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m. And we're back every morning the next day doing the same thing, Michigan news and Michigan politics.
And great show to listen to. And don't forget to check out letsfixstuff.org. We'll keep you up to date on all kinds of solutions to all the problems that we're facing. So,
Okay, sir.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you for participating, and let's go get our country back in shape, eh?
Amen. God bless.
All right, bye-bye.